Hello, everyone. This is Eric Lee with the Fantasy Football Consultants breaking down week 4. We're going to do a full cash lineup on both DraftKings and FanDuel, and we're going to do it in a lightning quick way, starting with our cover boy here, Jackson Dart. If you haven't heard the news, Russell Wilson has been benched, and he's supposed to be benched for the rest of the season. So we're not worried about a situation that if Jackson Dart makes a mistake, that he immediately gets pulled out and we can get him in the lineup on DraftKings at a ridiculous $4,500 price because they didn't know he was going to be the starter. I predict Dart will never be this cheap. Not only does Dart have some weapons to throw to on this team, but he has a dual threat. If you go back to his college years, he averaged on a per game basis 38 rushing yards. So I think it's a great start to our lineup, and it allows us to do some pretty good things. So what are some of those things? How about bringing back my favorite guy? I think he's been in my lineup every week this year, Christian McCaffrey, and we haven't been disappointed. One thing about him, he's going to get his touches. He is going to get involved in the passing game, which is so important on DraftKings, which is a full PPR, and he's in good spot. He is a home favorite against the Jacksonville Jaguar defense, which is not very good. But if McCaffrey's in a good spot, James Cook is in even a better spot, believe it or not. Glad to get him in our lineup at $7,100. He is home. He's favored. An obscene implied total of 32. They should absolutely destroy the New Orleans Saints, who are 15.5 point underdogs to Buffalo. The Saints just gave up 44 points to Seattle. The only question is, are we going to have a situation where James Cook eventually gets benched? Yeah, if they get that far ahead, it should be a situation that Cook had a very good game. So glad to get him in the lineup in a game where I think Buffalo should be more conservative in the third quarter as they build a big lead. And that means less Josh Allen rushing, hopefully, and more James Cook. At wide receiver, Puka Nacua. What a great guy to have in our lineup at $7,900. I want exposure to this game, the LA Rams hosting the Indianapolis Colts. I think it's shootout potential. More importantly, so does Las Vegas. An overall over-under of 49.5 points. And the guy who should benefit probably more than any other player is Puka Nacua. Look at the targets he receives, right? It's great. So let's be happy we can get him in our lineup. And we got to save some money now, but not in quality. We get two what I would call number one wide receivers on their team. Ricky Pearsall out of San Francisco and Chris Godwin out of Tampa Bay. Now you might say, what? Number one wide receiver is Mike Evans. Look on my screen. Mike Evans is doubtful. And assuming that Chris Godwin is going to get healthy enough. Now this will be Chris Godwin's first game back. You can note that because when you look at the game log, it's empty. That's a little nerve-wracking, right? You normally don't like to pick guys who have been out multiple weeks. Give them a week where they actually play and then play them. However, with Mike Evans out, I don't think the Buccaneers have a choice not to use him. And so as long as he's a good to go to play in this game, Chris Godwin stays in our lineup. Now we're going to do something I don't normally do in my cash lineups. I am going to put two tight ends, meaning putting a tight end at my flex. But I like both of these guys, and I like them. Forget that they're tight ends. How about that? What I want you to do is mind melt here. Forget these guys are tight ends and just look at their stats, right? Given their money at $3,700, look at the targets that you're getting out of Harold Fannin Jr. We're talking about 4, 5, and 9. But let me tell you something. The worst game was last week when they played a very tough Green Bay defense. They're not going to face anything like that against Detroit. Detroit's a great team, but they're a great team more because of their offense. I think Cleveland is going to have to pass to stay in this game, and Fannin is simply one of the better weapons that Cleveland has on that offense. The other tight end is Juwan Johnson from New Orleans. Likewise, they're going to have to pass a lot. Normally in DFS, you think not necessarily good for the tight end. That's normally good for the wide receiver. You want a tight end that maybe will be favored and a situation where they're playing more conservatively, shorter passes. But I don't know. I think New Orleans has been down almost all this year, and Juwan Johnson continues to perform. 8 targets, 9 targets, 12 targets, and it's only $4,200. I mean, you can't get those type of targets for that price at the wide receiver. All right, so we got to do a punt defense with the Browns, but you do have a very talented defensive line there who should hopefully create some pressure, maybe some sacks, maybe some turnovers. All right, let's go to FanDuel. All right, our cover boy for FanDuel is Josh Allen. So we went cheap in DraftKings at quarterback, but we're paying way up in FanDuel. We're looking at a $9,000 price for Josh Allen, but I think he's worth it. You have the situation again where they are at home with, you just don't get implied totals this high. 32 points. So they're going to put points on the board, and it's really hard to imagine a scenario where Josh Allen isn't a huge part of that. I do put the caveat, and I said it in the DraftKings video, you could have a situation in the fourth quarter where if New Orleans can't put up points, where Buffalo gets way ahead and they run a more conservative offense. What we have to hope here is in the first quarter, in the second quarter, and in the early third quarter, that Josh Allen helped tremendously at getting them way ahead. Let's just hope. Oh, please, New Orleans, do not turn the ball over and create pick six type opportunities where Buffalo is scoring without the benefit of Josh Allen. All right, let's move on to running back. All right, we paid a lot of money for Josh Allen, but we're going to pay almost the same amount at $100 less for Bijan Robinson. We think he's worth it at $8,900. Let's take a look at the game log. All right, the he really excelled was in week 2, given that he had 25 touches, even though he didn't score a touchdown. That's what we're looking for in this match. The reason why he got so many touches was that they were ahead of Minnesota for most of that game, where they fell behind in the Tampa Bay and Carolina games, and they didn't use them as much. This week, they host Washington that may not have Jaden Daniels, and they're only a 1.5-point dog. So it's okay if they're behind by a little or ahead by a little. We just need them in the game, and Robinson is going to get his touches. That's what we think is going to happen, and we've got him in our lineup. Now, we need to save money, and once again, we're going to go to the New York Giants to do it. We are using their quarterback, the new rookie, in our DraftKings lineup, Jackson Dart. In our FanDuel, we're using rookie sensation Cam Skattebo at only $5,400. He's just too cheap, folks. He has carved out a serious role on this New York Giant team, both with getting some carries and being very involved in the passing game. If you watch him, he's a very dynamic runner, always could be a potential of breaking off a big run or run after catch. Love the fact that we can get him in our lineup for only $5,400. Let's take a look at our wide receivers. We're going to the youth movement, folks. They're all young. They're all talented. They're all facing defenses that have done very poorly against wide receivers so far this year. We already talked about Ricky Pearsall. McMillan, T-Mac, glad to get him in the lineup as well. He has established himself as the number 1 wide receiver in Carolina, and if you've watched him, He's a true talent. We'll just see real quick what he has done this year. Love the targets he's getting. Bryce Young is clearly looking his way, but at 7,200, a little bit more expensive, but well worth the money. Just look what Rome Odunze is doing this year. Averaging 9 targets a game, averaging a touchdown, actually more than a touchdown a game. He has been huge and a huge part of this Bear offense. And we talked about Harold Fannin Jr. in the lineup, still darn cheap here on DraftKings, on FanDuel. And we're not doing double tight ends here. We're getting Christian McCaffrey back. And I've commented about him so much every week. The thing I want everyone to remember, not only has he been good, he's been consistent. 19, 19, 19. But folks, a floor for McCaffrey. Why? Because he's not getting any rushing touchdowns. He hasn't gotten a rushing touchdown this year. He just has 1 touchdown overall through the air. I think the touchdowns are coming, and this week is an excellent opportunity for them. The Jacksonville Jaguars. So that is my FanDuel lineup with the Tampa Bay defense. I'm surprised they're so cheap at $3,100. I certainly like them a lot more than New Orleans and Cleveland, who are huge underdogs. Not like Tampa Bay, who's at home. They do have a tough team they're playing at Philadelphia, but I'll take them as a punt defense, and I actually like them more than any defense up to 3,300 because I'm leaving $200 on the table for you to decide where you want to improve. All right, everybody, here is my call to action to you guys. I was convinced to come back and lead this DFS show on the Fantasy Football Channel, and I want to hear from you guys. I want this not to be one way. Please let us know what you think about our lineups. Which players do you really like? Which ones do you not like? And tell us why. And most importantly, what are some players that we didn't mention who you think should be in the lineups for a cash lineup on the main slate of DraftKings and FanDuel? And on your way out, please do us a favor and smash that like button. And if you haven't yet, hit the red subscribe button. Take care, everybody. Have a great week and weekend. See you next time.